Welcome to a brand new edition of U-Talk. I'm your host, Paige Turner, school counselor at Noble Middle School. Our show is all about the middle school student. We leave no stone unturned, testing, bullying, dating, stress, and so much more. Joining me each month is a seasoned panel of middle school students ready to discuss the issues and tackle the tough questions. This month, in addition to your questions, we have a special guest from the world of TV journalism to share with us his background and some of the secrets of local TV news. But first, we kick off our show with some Q&A, featuring questions on a variety of topics for middle schools throughout the school system that our panel of students are ready to answer. No question is too tough, no topic is too difficult. All right, panelists, here's our first question. Hi, I really want a smartphone, but my dad is against it. I found a $60 smartphone that does everything I want. I was willing to pay for it myself. What can I do?
Number one, $60 for a smartphone, but then you've got to think data plan, phone plan, texting plan. It's not going to be cheap. And I mean, your father probably has a point in why he doesn't want you to have a smartphone. I mean, parents argue about social media and how it can kind of go too far into your life sometimes, but I think everything is good in moderation.
Okay.
Yeah, but like I wasn't allowed to get a smartphone for a really long time, and I just got one that's my dad's old phone, and I still can't have any social medias or anything. But I think it depends on how old you are and what grade you're in to have a phone that's a smartphone, because if you're just in elementary school, you don't really need a phone then.
Right, and I'm not sure how old this person is, but I do know that you guys have made some really good points about, if this person is saying, well, I will pay for it with my own money. You're right, Henry, it's not just $60 buying the phone. I mean, there's lots of additional costs that come with that. And then both of you guys kind of alluded to or mentioned what is the purpose of her having the phone or him having the phone? Is it just to be in touch with family members, or is it, they want to use it for other things like the social media, games, apps, whatever else? What do you guys think?
I think that if the parents can set up like a deal that they get to like maybe see what you're doing on it, and then they can like take it away if you're doing things that they don't approve of. But depending on the age, maybe they should have one to contact if they're staying after school or something.
Right. And I think so. Those are some pretty good, really good things to find out is how old is this person, and then what is their intent with the phone, and why do they need it, and then maybe finding out what the parents or the father's reason is that they don't want the child to have a phone. Sounds like communication is something that they need to work on a little bit. All right, let's go to our next question. My parents got me a new pair of earrings for my birthday present, and they look really expensive. I don't know if I'm really going to wear them all that much because I have other tastes in jewelry. I don't want to come across as ungrateful or hurt their feelings, but I don't know how to or if I should tell them.
Get the receipt.
Get the receipt.
Get the receipt.
To take
Turn
it back.
that in, get the money, and go out and have a good time. That's all I'm going to say.
I think you should tell them because, it would be kind of a waste of money, and then they could either return it and use the money and actually use the money for something they might need, or, give it to, your mom so she could use it.
Yeah, so you're feeling like there needs to be a conversation about, this is not really something I'm going to wear. I don't want you to waste the money.
Yeah.
And then maybe it can lead into, well, I still have the receipt, and we can go take it back and get something that you'll use. Have you guys ever been in that situation where someone's given you something that you didn't really like?
All the time.
My mom, for Christmas, I got a pair of shoes that I wasn't the biggest fan of, but she thought they were really adorable, and she really wanted me to wear them. And so we were looking on the website to try to find a different pair, and there was a pair that I really liked, but it wasn't, I was kind of debating whether or not I should keep. And so I kept the ones that my mom gave me, and it turns out I really like them, and they're my favorite pair of shoes right now.
Okay, so you changed your mind on it. That's interesting. What about anybody else? Have you been in that situation?
Well,
Yes.
whenever I go shopping and stuff, my mom, she won't she says, if you're not going to wear it, I'm not going to buy it. So we kind of have that discussion in the store on whether I'm actually going to use it, because if I'm not, then there's no point in buying it.
Absolutely. So I think you guys agree that she does need to say something to her parents, and then kind of see where it goes from there. All right, let's move on to the next question. I'm considered a loner. Not that I mind, but my family seems to think it'd be horrible not to have any friends. I'm an introvert in a family of extroverts, and I'm a tomboy in a world of preppy girls. I just don't relate to anybody my age right now, and my parents are trying to force me into friendships I don't want. My mom is trying to form me into one of my sisters, and realistically, that's not possible. How do I get my parents to understand me for who I am and not for who I'm not? It's an interesting one.
I think that they really shouldn't be forcing you into friendships because if you really want to be just yourself and you don't want to be around people as much, then that's what you want to do. And then you shouldn't be forced to do something that you really don't want to do.
But also there comes a point where being alone all the time can kind of be unhealthy, and you need to look at your options. And like, I'm a very extroverted person, but I do sometimes enjoy just the tub of ice cream and the Netflix coma, but you need to find the healthy balance.
And that's the exact word that I was thinking of, is balance. You know, I think you're right. I think you do need to kind of have a balance in that.
Yeah, I think it's important that you have like some friendships, at least have one really close friend that you can just talk to whenever you can't talk to your parents about something. So I mean, I would talk to your parents and like maybe go to a counselor or something to try to figure out what's like why they're forcing you into it.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, the first step would be going to your parents and talking to them. And then if you felt like you really weren't getting anywhere and they weren't really hearing what you were saying, then, like you said, Emily, maybe going the next step and talking to somebody else, whether it be a close family member, an aunt, an uncle, you know, a brother, sister, a counselor, you know, something like that for sure. Okay, next question. I always get worried and I care too much about what other people think about me. I take violin lessons and my teacher has to have everything exactly perfect. I never do good and it makes me feel bad. What should I do? Sounds like this person can be a perfectionist a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, like don't get pressured by that. Just try to do your best, and you might want to have to talk to them, like that they're kind of pressuring you and that they're expecting more out of you than what you could possibly do.
And as long as you're doing the best that you can do, then you really shouldn't have to worry about whether or not you're meeting your teacher's expectations.
And the violin is a hard instrument, is all I'm going to say. And like, don't put so much pressure on yourself to be perfect all the time, because when you're under like all this pressure that you're creating for yourself, it can almost feel like you're trapped, because wherever you go, there's always you. So you need to really think about just sort of relaxing a little bit and taking some time off, especially if it's getting you so worked up about it.
Do you guys have any tips or any suggestions on how to kind of de-stress or kind of relax a little bit?
Netflix coma, tub of ice cream, as I said earlier.
As you mentioned earlier. Okay. Anybody else? What do you do when you kind of get stressed and worried and
Kind of
sleep?
try to like lay off what you're getting stressed off of and do something you like maybe go hang out with some friends or just, I don't know, watch TV, I guess.
Yeah. Or like you said, hang out with friends that make you feel good about yourself, you know, and that don't judge you or they make you feel like you have to be perfect with whatever you do. Yeah, that is for sure. All right. Well, I think we've run out of time for our next question. The next one's pretty long, so we'll have to save it for our next show. That wraps up UTalk Q&A. If you're a middle school student with a question you'd like our panel to discuss, there are several ways to submit that question. First, you can drop the question off to your school counselor or social worker. 2, you can email it to nhcstv@ec.rr.com. Or 3, use good old-fashioned mail by sending your question to NHCS-TV, UTalk, 1802 South 15th Street, Wilmington, North Carolina, 28401. Now, coming up in our next segment, Peyton is joined by our special guest from WWWAY3. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Nice. Yes, go! Yes! No! Come on! ropes? Yeah, sure. Let's go.
Moms everywhere are finding ways to keep kids active and healthy.
Works every time.
Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov.
Welcome back to U-Talk. Where does news come from? How do you know if it's reliable? Joining us this month is a local TV reporter and news anchor from TV3. He is with Peyton to talk about his background and how local news is put together. Peyton?
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Today I'm sitting down with Chris Brown. Chris is award-winning journalist and news anchor. Chris Brown joined WWAY as weekend anchor in 2014. A native of the Port City, Chris graduated from Ashley High School in 2004 and earned a degree in broadcast journalism and from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. The winner of 3 Associated Press Awards, Chris has been providing compelling news coverage for years. In fact, Chris has been involved in television news since he was 14 years old. He got a start at New Hanover County Schools television, working his way up the ladder. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you for having me, Peyton.
Okay. Here's your first question. How and when did you become interested in television and journalism?
Well, I was young, and I remember in middle school we had a Gator Network News. I went to Myrtle Grove Middle School, and we had a Gator Network News, and that was when I first sort of got involved in sort of understanding what it was all about. But I always watched the news. I was a weird kid and watched the news instead of watching other things. So, and so from there, I kept studying it and kept at it, and then lo and behold, I ended up doing it for a living, and here we are today. So, but it started very young.
Did you go to school for this?
Yeah, I did. I went to the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. I did a year at UNCW and then ended up in Greensboro because they had a more comprehensive broadcasting program. You got to do more hands-on stuff. You got to pick up the camera and go out and do. We had a news set and we had a news show in college, and so in fact, when I was in college, I got my first internship, which was really where I learned a lot. Really, just sort of getting out in the field and seeing what the day-to-day life of being a reporter and an anchor was really like.
Tell us about the first news job you had.
The first news job I had was right here at New Hanover County Schools TV. So just like you, I was about, how old are you?
13.
13. So I was 14, I think, when I started here. And so I had a little talk show called Teen Link. And so from there, I did the morning show here, and then I got a job at one of the television stations in town, and then I sort of went to college and worked my way up. And but it all started right here in this room, actually. This is sort of where I fell in love with the idea of doing television for a living. Tell us about the daily routines you go through to prepare for being on air. Well, so, it's it runs the gamut, really, of things. But really, it's just making sure you have a good grasp on what's going on in the world around you. And the tough part is to not be so focused on, things that are happening out in the world when you're working in a small local television station, because you have to be able to sort of relate things to the people who are going to be watching you. So, so you have to have an idea of what's going on in your community if you're doing local news, and so that's probably the biggest part of things, just being sort of in touch and aware. But then, as opposed to that, just getting ready and making sure my shirts are ironed, because if not, I get in trouble for that, and making sure because sometimes you don't want to iron things, but you kind of have to, because then your boss gets mad at you. So that's probably one of the toughest things. But yeah, I don't like ironing. Who does?
How do you pick the news stories you cover?
That's a collaborative effort. So we have a meeting. We have one meeting in the morning and one meeting in the afternoon, and everybody pitches story ideas, and they can be follow-ups from things we did the day before or totally new enterprise ideas. And we everybody goes around the table and they all pitch their ideas for either the early shows or the late shows. And then we sort of whittle that down. But the thing that you have to realize is that even when you're pitching a story, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it's going to turn out, because things can often change when you get there and talk with the people and interview the people. So it's sort of, you can pitch a story and then it becomes something different by the time you do the story. So, but generally, that's a collaborative effort between my bosses and sort of everybody who works at the station. Everybody has a voice in that.
Do people recognize you out in public?
You know, it happens. It doesn't happen as often as you think. Well, this is what people usually do. They'll sort of like be walking and they'll go, like, I know you from somewhere. Like, you know, did you sell me a sandwich at Subway earlier? Or are you the guy who stepped on my toe in line just a few minutes ago? You know, people, every now and then, though, people will, know who I am. And those people, I think, are probably the diehard watchers of local news. But I think for the most part, it's not about doing this to be recognized or anything, though. It's really about just loving what you do. And I'm a storyteller at heart, so that, and in that regard, I love what I do.
What do you enjoy most about your job?
I think meeting people. Every day I meet all kinds of interesting and fascinating people from all different from all different walks of life, and it really is an incredible experience to be able to go out and do something different every single day. I mean, there aren't a whole lot of jobs where you can say that every day I do something totally different. I'm covering crime on one day. Yesterday I covered offshore wind energy. I'll be at the governor's mansion, or I'll be in somebody's home talking to them about something that's happened to them. So that's really interesting to me. I really enjoy meeting people and being around people, and so for me that's the best part of my job, is just being able to interact with different people from different walks of life on a day-to-day basis.
What is the most memorable story you have covered?
A couple years ago, I was the Marine Corps reporter in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and I got the chance to go to Afghanistan to cover the war in Afghanistan with some Marines from Camp Lejeune. That certainly, beyond a shadow of a doubt, was the most memorable story I've ever covered. I was embedded in their and 28 Fox Company. I was embedded in their company for about a month, a little more than a month. And so being with them every day in a combat situation, it was scary. And it had some really intense moments, but it also showed you sort of the work that goes into fighting for our country and what that means. And so that was definitely the most memorable story. Abroad, at home, when I was also in Jacksonville, we had some really bad tornadoes that came through, and luckily nobody was killed in them, which was wonderful. But there was a lot of damage. But watching a community sort of come together around its people and become stronger because of that, and in the face of all this tragedy, was really moving. And again, you meet some fascinating people along the way, and just watch the people overcome and the things that they've overcome. And so here at home, that was probably my most memorable story as well.
I'd like to thank my guest Chris Brown for talking with us today about the world of TV journalism. For UTalk, I'm Peyton. Now back to our panel.
Thanks, Peyton. So how many of you guys watch the local news?
Well, I sometimes do at night because that's like the only thing on. But I like watching the Today Show because it actually, like, I don't know, they just make it better.
Sometimes I'll see the commercials for the local news. That's just the little, like, it tells you what's going on, and then to watch for more details.
I'm definitely guilty of going just on social media and just stumbling across things, or I hear about things at school, but I'm too lazy to actually
To get there and watch it?
Yeah, I hear from like other people, but I don't like, and you see like news articles about it, maybe like in school where they talk about, we have Channel 1 News at our school that we show, so I mean I find out the news from that, but I don't watch.
Well, that was going to be my next question, is where do you get news from? And I know a lot of our classes, like you said, Emily, do watch Channel 1 News, so you kind of get short snippets of what's going on in the world. What about locally, though? Do you guys feel like you're in touch with what's going on in our hometown, or not so much?
I'm probably more than average, but not like daily. Probably like once or twice a week.
Which I think is sad, and I feel like I should do it more, but I feel like there's also like so many other things that I'm doing, and I normally don't get home until late, and then I just I just go to bed and
Yeah.
then I just forget to do anything.
Yeah.
I agree. I feel like I should be watching the news, but like it
Doesn't happen all
Yeah.
the time, which is okay. And I feel like at your age, like you were saying, Henry, you guys are so involved, and you've got to keep up with your studies and your work and then extracurriculars. So, I can definitely see where you don't have as much time to just sit down and watch the news. I personally don't necessarily watch the news, but I'm on their websites all the time trying to just kind of learn what's going on. Because with 2 small children, it is hard to kind of sit down and watch it at 6 o'clock or 5:30, 5 o'clock.
I follow like on Twitter, I follow all the different news things. So you can see it like at a glance, I guess, but I mean, I only follow like the sort of general things, and I don't necessarily follow local news, which I feel like is something I should do now,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna do that.
Well, how do you guys know that so some of you talked about you go on social media to find news. How do you know that information that you're receiving is reliable and accurate?
I don't.
I don't.
Yeah, you really don't know.
I fact check it at school. I go
Okay.
up to people and I'm like, did you hear about this? And then when they're like, no, that doesn't exist, and I'm like, oh, well, I was just making sure because I heard this nasty rumor going on.
Okay.
Well, usually like different news talk about the same thing, and if there's like if there's like more than one that like talk about it, then I usually assume it's right. So yeah.
Yeah, it's hard because when you feel like that you're reading something on a website or you're watching something on television that hopefully it's going to be reliable information that's coming to you, but certainly that's not always the case.
Like, there's always that little shadow of a doubt because people are always like, well, you can never believe what you read or hear, and there's been cases recently, as we were talking about, where stuff just doesn't check out all the time. So you have to be really careful about what you believe and what you don't.
Yeah, I mean, like I just try to trust that it's right and hope that it's right. I mean, I don't know, but
Yeah.
most of the time they're not so. The lies that are told aren't going to be these huge lies that are going to affect you, and so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like if it's something that you really think is absolutely outrageous, but you believe it because it looks official, it usually isn't, because that's what the people that make that aim to do. They want you to believe it, but it's not really true.
Yeah, and this could be a whole nother show about about kind of the messages that are sent to all of us, but especially to guys your age, guys and girls your age, from media, social media, television, movies, things like that. But you do have to be careful, and I think going to somebody that you trust and trying to have a conversation about what is truth, what is not truth. But then you have to also factor in everybody has different perspectives and opinions too, and so there's just a lot of information out there that you kind of have to filter for sure. How many of you feel like you might start watching a little bit more local news after today, or maybe learning more information about what's going on in our community?
I'll probably be a little bit more into the local news.
For on-air purposes, yes, I will totally continue to watch news and stay focused on my community. For off-air purposes, I'll probably watch it tonight and then just forget and go back to my old Twitter ways.
Yeah, I agree with Henry. Like I would like to say I would be more involved, but I probably just.
Well, it's good every now and then just to kind of keep tabs and check in. So, well, thank you guys for sharing your opinions on that. Now, don't go away. We've got more U Talk coming up right after this short break.
Traditional light bulbs actually generate 9 times more heat than light. Switch to Energy Star light bulbs, and you'll realize just how much cash you were really burning through. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov.
Welcome back to U Talk. We have a very short amount of time, so quickly we're going to review some of the apps that middle school students are using today.
So some of the apps that I frequent, and by frequent I mean obsess over, is Tumblr, which is sort of an app that lets you create your own blog and reblog things. Twitter, just because I can yell at people. And Snapchat, which is an app where you get to send ugly photos of yourself and your friends can't steal them.
Okay.
I don't really have any social medias like I mentioned earlier, but I do play some games like Crossy Road, which is kind of like Frogger, but in a newer version where you can play as different characters, and I think it's really fun. And then there's another game, AA, where you just basically tap and you try to get all the little like circles into the little area without touching any of the others.
Okay. Cool.
I like using Instagram, and I'm on YouTube a lot because there's a lot of funny videos on there, and they're long, so it kind of takes up your time, and if you have nothing to do, that's like the one thing I go to.
So instead of watching local news, you watch
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Yes.
I use like Pinterest and Trivia Crack and Netflix.
Okay. Well, very cool. Thanks for sharing the apps that you guys are using. Remember, before you add any apps to your phone or tablet, discuss them with your parents to make sure that they are safe. And parents, we recommend that you check your children's devices as well. We hope you have enjoyed this edition of UTalk. If you missed any part of this program, then check us out online at www.nhcs.net and click on the video library link found on the school system's webpage. I'm Paige Turner. On behalf of the entire UTalk panel, thanks for watching.